Okay. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to everybody all over the world. Thank you for attending our Rotary meeting and our exciting, to all our travelers, an exciting experience to bring you to Bangladesh tonight or tomorrow, whenever you get there. So I'm President Andy, and welcome to the Rotary E-Club of Southeast USA and the Caribbean. And we're really an exciting club. We're growing every day. We're bringing in new members from all around the world. And I just want to say that we, and our past president, Susanne, will tell you that we this last year achieved the Rotary International Presidential Citation, which is a great honor. I think we got the highest level, which just means that we had to do a lot of work to get that. And we want to thank past District Governor Will and President-elect Alicia for really spearheading that and bringing our club really to the forefront of what Rotary clubs do and how we do it and how we do it well. So thank you for being here. Again, if anybody's interested in being with us, with our club, please contact us. And that beautiful lady with that beautiful whitish hair who's sitting there is our president-elect. And also her, where is Governor Will? Is he beside you or here or not here tonight?
He's one down.
Is he around?
There. Yep.
He's one down.
Okay.
He's one column
He's one down. Okay. So our membership chair is past District Governor Will, and he would be happy to talk to you if you would like to be with us on your Rotary journey. So I want to pass it along to Alicia, and Alicia's going to start our meeting and tell us all about past President Susanne, and who's been part of this club really from the beginning, and was also your traveler host tonight. And she's going to bring us on a great journey all around the world where we can't travel outside of the US, but tonight we're going to be there in Bangladesh, all of us together, with exciting music, food, travel, culture, people, and everything. So I'm excited. I hope you are. So Alicia, with introductions, and let's take it away.
All right. Thank you, President Andy. Just real quick, Andy gave you a kind of an overview of the E-Club. We are an electronic Rotary Club. In other words, we don't meet face-to-face in a Terra or brick and mortar situation. We have these kind of meetings, our Zoom meetings once a month, usually every third Thursday of the month, where we at least get to see each other online. Otherwise, we do have a meeting thread that runs continuously throughout each week online. We have been a Rotary Club we just celebrated our 15th year in existence. And we are growing, and we have members from up and down the East Coast, Midwest, Caribbean, Germany, and Cameroon, Africa right now. And we're looking to always to expand and always welcome in new members. So with that other quick overview, I'm just going to go ahead and hand the program over to Susanne, our artistic past president, who has been wonderful in offering and putting together our program for this evening. And we're going to Bangladesh. Susanne?
Okay, here we go. Well, you know, when you hear Bangladesh, then a lot of people said, where is that? And said that was not exactly on their mind to go. So it was a hard time recruiting people to want to go for a month to a very far away country. And so this was a very interesting start. I was the alumni chair, so I was the one promoting this trip. And eventually I applied, which my husband asked, why did you take so long? And I said, did you want to get rid of me? But this is a very, very long process of starting a trip like that. You have to prepare. And so you have to find a team to go, and you also have to practice. And so I went with them, and we did a lot of different things for this practice. We went to Indian festivals here in Tampa. We went to Indian restaurants, Pakistani, whatever we could find that was close. Bangladesh is a country that I'll tell you more about when I get my PowerPoint up, and I'll screen share with you so that you'll see the presentation, hopefully. So let me get that ready, and then we can talk a little bit more. So I need to set that up. Oops, I did it wrong. I know I did. Sorry. Okay. I have to screen share first. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, host, Alicia. Not good.
No.
Okay, I'm having to say, okay, you're gonna have to let me. Some feature. Okay, that's okay. Now let's see. Uh-oh, now it's saying resources. What are we going? Okay, let me see here that I can.
Susanne?
It's still disabled, so what can I do?
That's Alicia's screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not supposed to screen share. She's supposed to enable the participants to share the screen. In her settings there, I think it's disabled. I keep getting participants are disabled in sharing. So that's under settings, I'm thinking.
Okay, go ahead, try it again.
Okay, I'm gonna try it again. All right. Okay.
Susanne?
Yeah.
While you're getting set up, I just thought of something. Maybe you've probably been looking at the world news, whatever. Could you give us just an update? I know they're having a really bad, tragic cyclone.
You're right. I don't
in
have an
Bangladesh.
update, and I didn't check, Andy. You're
Okay.
right, and we have to think of them because it's
Sure.
Ramadan, and they, as far as I heard the last news, and that was probably what you heard too, it was that it was in the northeast of the country. Dhaka is not in the northeast. That is, I believe, Sylhet, Cox's Bazar, places that are remote or away from the capital, but there are still 2,000 people per square mile. Now, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. I have not run into this, Alicia. Thank you very much for one more pointer on what you can and cannot do.
There you go.
Yes. Okay, so I had a little problem in shuffling these slides. So I'm going to go and explain. The first 5 ones are a little out of order, but this is, can everybody see this? Yes? Everybody can see? Okay, good. All right, so in 2006, this is quite a while ago, we had the great idea we wanted to go to Hungary. And these group study exchanges are month-long. They used to be 6 weeks, but they're month-long vocational and cultural trips sponsored by Rotary International and the districts at that time. This is, it runs a little differently right now, but it is in place again. And what we do is a team leader takes a team of 4 to 5 young people that are from different branches of work, different professions, and I have a member, Pam Davis. I don't know, Alicia, if you can find her on my list, and you can somehow email her and tell her how to do this, because she is emailing
here.
me.
I'm in, Susanne. I'm up here. I'm above you. I'm in.
Okay, yeah. Well then please
Okay.
don't call me because I'm talking.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so so this training, this is a trip to learn about your profession and the culture that you're going to. And so it is very important that you prepare this trip, you prepare for quite a few months, and you can prepare as much as we did. We talked to a former Peace Corps worker. We had a lot of connections that Rotary gave us. Rotary is a service club of business people. It has been around since 1905 with a foundation in place place a few years later, and this idea that we want to do good in various different areas. The biggest push that Rotary has always been doing is polio, and we want to eradicate polio in the world. So Bangladesh is on the radar for a lot of different things. They have a huge need for water projects and all kinds, even though there's a lot of water in Bangladesh, but there needs to be a lot of literacy projects and all kinds. And the Rotarians in Bangladesh, which is one huge district at the time, it is now two, was an excellent place to visit, but it was something very, very difficult because it is a developing country. And so we were faced with a lot of extra added preparation that other countries may not need. And one of them was probably, if you had to pay for it, $500 worth of vaccinations. You know, we had to do hepatitis vaccinations, polio, and we had to take with us something that's been in the news lately, and that is that wonderful anti-malarial drug. But it is, we chose a daily pill for, which was called Malarone. So we were well prepared on the health end. I have only, as I said, I don't have any knowledge if Tanya has joined us. The other Tanya, her name is Salma Siddiqa, and her Western name is Tanya, and that's the host daughter of my host family. We were going to go to host families, and in this stay, you stay with different host families. We had 3 main host families in Dhaka, in the capital of Bangladesh, and we took a flight via London to Bangladesh and got there early in the morning. It was not quite as crowded on an early morning, so that was interesting. I'm showing on the first slide that that is my Rotary E-Club in part. So every now and then we see each other in person. Otherwise, we meet online, and we all do good projects together. I do a lot of youth exchange for Rotary. So you might recognize yourselves if you are part of this little group, photo group. Okay, so we went to Bangladesh, and when I came back, I painted what I saw. And I decided to paint brides. So this is a set of paintings that I am still not finished with, but it is on the second to left is, and in the middle, actually the 2 middle paintings are my host family's daughter, who had a glorious wedding, which I was not privy to see, but I saw photographs of it. So this is the other Tanya. And so that is one of the projects, as I am an artist, and if you didn't know that, now you know. So this is my team. We recruited 3 young ladies. One of them, Janine, is the tallest, well, the darker haired one to my left, I guess, was a student of mine at St. P. College and a nursing home assistant, and that was invaluable because she knew to take no health risks and helped us all not to do that. And then there were Reese and Sarah. So we were a team of all women going to Bangladesh, which was found to be very strange because they expected us to have at least 1 man in the group, and we didn't. So here's the stats for Bangladesh. For those of you who would like to know, Bangladesh became independent in 1971. I know this very well because my father was a German diplomat working with the subcontinent, and my father contracted a viral hepatitis in 1971 when there were refugees coming to Germany from these countries, and he almost died. So I remember Bangladesh well, and knew that this country existed from an early age. I was 14 at that time. So it is one of the most densely populated areas of the world, exceeding 2,000 people per square mile. Bordering regions to India, it's kind of in the crook of the arm of India. If you look at India, it's on the on the east side, and it used to be East Pakistan until it became independent in 1971. Bangladesh has the largest mangrove forest in the world, the Sundarbans, which we got to see. And it also has the world's longest beach, Cox's Bazar. That is where Andy was talking about the cyclone. That was, I think, where the winds were most strong last I had heard. The religion is predominantly Muslim, and Bengal is part of India and Bangladesh. So this state of Bengal, or the area of Bengal, was divided into two halves. Same goes for Pakistan and India on the other side, but this makes it interesting because you have one people and two countries. The national anthems were of India and Bangladesh were written by Rabindranath Tagore, a beautiful poet, and the beautiful anthem if you get to listen to it. And we were in Dhaka, as you can see, and Dhaka is obviously in the middle of the state. I thought it was further on the east. The top, I think, where Sylhet is where these beaches are. And down here is a free trade zone. So Chittagong is also a place that we went to. We got to go see, and a lot of your blue jeans are made in that area, and we got to sample that as well. So this was what I wanted to actually prequel everything with. I'm both a radio show host, you'll see that on the left, and on the other side, you'll see that I'm a sculptor, painter sculptor. So those are the two things that I do, and I teach. And I have written a book, a dissertation that was published. So that's kind of nice to have a book somewhere. Bangladesh is a country of extreme contrasts. For those who have attained wealth, it's a country of beauty and opulence. And this is a wedding. This is actually a wedding I attended. So I was very, very privileged to do so. It also is a country of abject poverty with lots and lots of help needed. And these lovely people we got to visit, it was a village that Rotary had at that time when the structures were still allowed. Rotary built some structures that were concrete. And these are just buildings around the other structures. So, this is how people welcomed us. They're extremely, very, very, very friendly. Happy to see us come visit. Little goats, if you wanted to hold a goat, that was the chance of a lifetime. I've more recently held another goat in Tampa Bay. It's possible. Again, if you have questions, unmute yourself, ask the question. I cannot see all of you. So if you're raising a hand or something, I can only see about 5 people on my right. We had host families. This is Sarah's host mother. She did some hennaing of our hands for fun. And each one of us, as I said, stayed with a different host family. So there we are. And of course, we got the clothes right away that you wanted to have and buy. And so we went shopping, and they were very kind to take us places and let us have that. This is my host family. This is Jamaluddin and his wife, Siddiqa. And their daughter, the one you saw as the beautiful bride, is there with the grandmother. So we went to the village where Jamaluddin grew up, I guess, and where his family, his parents lived, and they were quite aged. His mother was very ill with liver illness, so she did not live too much longer. But we got to meet, and it was a weekend, so Jamal is all in white because it was a day of prayer. And we were on our way to a wedding, and so everybody got dressed up. On the sari that I bought was for this last wedding that you saw in the slide. This is a building by an American architect, Louis Kahn, and it was commissioned to be the State House in Bangladesh. And it was built in 1959 already as the East Pakistan government building, because East Pakistan was very far away from West Pakistan. It is a building you can drive around, and it's very, very impressive, this whole complex. There is another part of this huge complex, and it's beautiful, kind of like Brasilia in Brazil, very much a created area of town. Downtown malls. This was a very new idea at the time we were there. I think there were not that many malls, and mostly these were sari shops in this mall. I don't remember walking all of it, so I can't recall the shops individually. Shops
Susanne?
are, yeah, go ahead.
Just while I was thinking, could you let us know, and maybe you know and maybe not, how is COVID-19? Has it affected Bangladesh a lot? Is that
It was alluded to, and I'm not up on the numbers. So
okay.
I know that it is affected because in the reporting, the lady said that there was this bad weather in addition to COVID. So I'm sure it's there. And yes, I think it's a question of, getting in touch with the Rotary clubs and seeing what is needed. But there are so many help projects from Rotary in Bangladesh that my guess is that there already, are a lot of things in place. There more so than other places. But thank you for that question. That's a good question. Yeah. This is, on the left side is a women's Rotary club. A Rotary club meeting. Sometimes they have mixed Rotary clubs. Some are all women clubs, and I don't know that they're all men clubs. But it was definitely, there was the lady with the orange sari is a medical doctor who has a clinic. A medical clinic below her house, lives on top, and we were guests in her home, and I think this was the evening actually at her home. It was a strike day, and we as foreigners had to stay inside on that day, although the strike was kind of already over by the time. I didn't ever see people striking. On the right is a pharmacy, and this is maybe amusing to those of you who have no access to all medicine, but it seemed much more open to buying things that we would consider medicines that were restricted. There you, I guess, asked more freely to buy something. I thought it was very, very confusing looking. The rickshaws in Bangladesh are under protection. They are not allowed to leave the country because they are national treasures. They're beautiful, and they're very beautifully decorated, kind of like an old movie poster you might have recalled, but you can see that they're very, very proud of them. And I saw one on a balcony somewhere, so they are also displayed as works of art in themselves. Riding in them is very treacherous, I found. You can see that I tried with my host family daughter, and these guys have to be enormously strong to do this, but what you don't see right there is that there are incredibly many potholes. So it was very interesting to navigate up and down these. It was like a little hilly road that you were constantly on. So that was kind of interesting. This is Runa Laila, and I misspelled her name, I just see. It's Laila, because I just looked up her music. She was a gorgeous, gorgeous young woman. She is now sort of the Barbara Streisand of Bangladesh and India both. She sings in all these languages, and Bengali is its own language. And in the 1950s, people died for their language because Pakistan said that East Pakistan had to speak Urdu, which is spoken in Pakistan. And the Bengalis said, no, we're not going to do that. So that caused some martyrs, and the martyrs are being honored with monuments and the like. And of course, the UN holiday, which America cannot celebrate because we do not have a mother language in this country. Bangladesh, however, has Bengali as their mother language, and it's a UN holiday, and it's called International Mother Language Day, and it is on February 21st. Ekushi is what the name is in Bengali. So we were there on Ekushi, and it was a big celebration. Very, very proud of their language. Runa Laila is honored and loved, and she was at the conference. And it was kind of like, you have to imagine like dancing, like Elvis dancing, okay? So very, very vivid scenes of men dancing around this gorgeous woman. And one looked down at me. I was sitting in a chair looking on as all the women were. And this man said to me, "Why aren't you dancing?" And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't dance." And so he said, "Why are you sorry?" And I said, "Okay, I'm not sorry." And he let me keep being seated. So that was kind of funny. But Runa Laila is very, very respected and honored as a national singer, as a very, very well-known singer. Okay, lots of interesting things that women do in Bangladesh. On the left is a newscaster. She was getting ready for her studio appearance before her newscast she was making up. And on the right is a lady who, I'm trying to think what her job was, but she broke into song in a Rotary meeting. So this is something we were happily surprised with. On the left is the Fulbright scholar, a professor Professor Raman, who was at St. Pete, I believe he was at USF maybe, for a short stay. And we met him here in Florida, and he welcomed us into his office at the University of Bangladesh, of Dhaka. And this on the right is the place where all the students usually sit. And I guess it was a day when they weren't there. So I got to see where they study, but not what happens in the classroom. And as a college teacher, that was one of the things vocationally that I really wanted to also do. In the newspaper, which was given to me every day, I'm not sure if it was half in English and half not, but all of a sudden a word popped out at me, and that word was Spagat. Spagat is the German word for split, and that was the name of an exhibition that Alpona on the left here with me, she was a Bengali lady, artist, who had gone to Berlin to study and had found a husband there and stayed. And she was back in the Bengali gallery and showing her, titled with Spagat, her paintings. And so it was a big exhibit. And because I'm an artist, I was very happy to meet with other artists. And so at the bottom is one of the Bangladeshi artists who is in Dhaka and very well known, and he was giving lessons at his house. So I got to see what he was doing, teaching privately there. This is the day of Ekushi, the National Mother Language Holiday. And there were lots and lots of flowers. There were always many yellow flowers in all the celebrations. Lots and lots of these were bought and then displayed. So this is one of the little stands that was giving or was selling all these flowers. Sorry. Then we got to see temples and beautiful buildings and dances, traditional dances. A lot of the kids did this not only for audiences this big, but also for us personally in the events that we were taken to. Every morning, a different Rotary Club would take us somewhere, and we were then given insights into cultural things and into in the Rotary meetings, and they were usually in the afternoons at 5. If you go to Bangladesh, the early mornings are not early. Sort of 9:30ish is breakfast. 2 o'clock in the afternoon is lunchtime. 5 o'clock is tea time. Very think back to colonial times, and 9 or 9:30 at night is dinner time. So it's a very different way of life. And Fridays is, of course, the day of prayer because this is a Muslim country. So Saturday and Sundays are days of work. And so the weekend is also a little bit shuffled away from what we think of when we do our week. This was an interesting day. We were told we were going to see the law. I don't know whatever happened to that idea, but we were sent to and brought to an amusement park. And this is how people dressed up for the amusement park. So I thought, well, it couldn't have very large and very complicated rides because they all looked very much like they were going to sit somewhere rather than being swirled in the air or such. And there were little bumper cars, and there was Iceland, which was a place with soap and was a cool tent. It's kind of interesting. I lived in Iceland as a child. It was not exactly like Iceland, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun to go to. So, and then these are the comfort garments, sometimes at home if it's a business suit person that walks around in Western clothes, but a lot of times the men wear these long loops of cloth that can't really blow open because they are an entire loop, and they're tucked in, and they're very easily also pulled high for various different reasons. When there's water in the streets, Bangladesh has a lot of flooding. This is a very easy garment to work with. So a lot of people do have it. We were invited to a trip to the largest mangrove forest in the world, the Sundarbans. And it was going to be a 2-day trip, and this was our boat. So you can see that it doesn't have actual cabins in that sense. So there was really not a place to sleep on the boat. There were benches around the middle inside structure that was on top, but mostly we sat on deck, as you see my girls on the right, and watched the landscape go by, the mangroves. So it was very, very interesting. We did not encounter a Bengal tiger, although everybody joked about it, and I'm kind of happy. We saw a bear. But the days went longer than anticipated, by us at least, because the captain of the boat was not quite sure when high and low tide was. And so they sat and they played cards while we were stuck with the boat in low tide for 3 hours. And then we got to the guest house and we got tea, and we had a night there, and then we went back. And that was so. And then we had, of course, boats on the sides that were trying to sell us things. So had these wonderful boys here on the back of one of the boats in the Sundarbans. This was the sides of the rivers. You can imagine how adventuresome it is to be on a boat. And what my girls were mostly upset about during this time was that their cell phones didn't work, because at that point there are no cell towers in the Sundarbans. So that was 2 days phone free, so to speak. Here is our guest house in the Sundarbans. This is the rooftop, and this is where we stayed overnight, and it was quite an adventure. In town, one of the big industries is also making bricks. So there are some of the bricks on the side, and of course it's a huge garment industry, lots and lots of textile factories, and you all see the textiles here, and there are so many different shops with textiles, and of course a lot of the exports are in Walmart or other stores in America. You can see made in Bangladesh, and you know that it's coming from there.
Susanne, what's the exchange rate? I mean, I know this was a couple of years ago, but you kind of know what it is now, or?
You know, Andy, I was asked, there were servants in the house, and I remember that I gave, I asked if I could give them a tip at the end because they had done so much for me. And I was kind of asked to give them about 200 taka. And I think that's like $1.50. I mean, it was incredible for doing this for 4 weeks. So I think it sounds like the taka is quite a lot more than the dollar in terms of, sounds like lira. It sounds like I wasn't giving them much, but for them that was incredibly much. And I got my feet kissed, which is not my way of life, but it is what you do with your mother-in-law. You kiss her feet when you see her, and they did that for me. And as I said, I kind of jumped, but that was interesting. Yeah.
Now I know where that term comes when you say kiss their feet. So
No, it's literal. I mean, you get down and you kiss the feet. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of bowing and there's a lot of devotion, and yeah. And the family that I lived in Dhaka had two servants inside, women that were cooking, and the servant girl's daughter was there, who was generously given instruction, also a Quran instruction on Fridays. A Quran teacher came into the house and instructed the youngest daughter, and the servant girl was the daughter was allowed to be part of that. And outside were a chauffeur and another man, and the other man was a poor relative who had lost everything on his Hajj. He had gone to Mecca, and I don't know if he wanted to stay in another country, but he returned poor, and he was allowed to live with the family. A lot of times poor relatives are taken in, but they have then more of a servant status. So he, within the walls of the house, of the outside, lived, and he also looked out for us if the women left the house. If I went shopping, I thought if I took the servant girl's daughter with me, that would be enough accompaniment. But no, all of a sudden in the shop down the street where we were, this relative turned up to take care that we were okay. And I was so surprised to see him, and kind of looked at him astounded that he stopped talking to me. He was very, very upset that I wasn't appreciative of his care. Which, as I said, I was just astounded. And so I had to make amends, and it took me a while to get his trust back, because that is the way it works. So this is a woman who's holding mustard seeds. It's a big, big industry. There's a lot of beautiful yellow fields of mustard, and here's mustard. And mustard is used in the old sense. I know this from my childhood of the 1950s and 60s, that you put a mustard Band-Aid or on your chest, a mustard, what do you call that? A mustard, when you have a cold, you put mustard on your chest. Has anybody ever heard that? No? Okay. Well, it's an old homeopathic way of dealing with colds. So as we are in this age, maybe it's something to come back to. Yeah. This was on a boat. We took a ferry over somewhere, I can't remember. And this is the little shop with groceries and fruit and lots of bananas. And bananas were a fantastic fruit in Bangladesh, because it is something you can peel. You don't have to touch it when you eat it. Every time somebody cut up fruit for us prior to our seeing it where it was done and who offered, we had to be very, very careful, because there are a lot of easy ways to get sick. There are a lot of home remedies, and I was very, very happy for those. But the idea of when you want to be a good guest, you have to eat something or drink something in your host's home. And with my host family, with the very aged parents, what my host father did very foresightfully is he bought a bushel of bananas and brought it to his parents' house in the village. And then he gave each one of us a banana in the home. And we each had our own banana and ate it. And with that, we had fulfilled the good guest having to eat something in your host's home. So it was a very, very clever way of keeping us all safe, because even my host family was extremely careful and got into trouble with relatives in the village where we visited a wedding when they would not eat or drink in their own relatives' homes. They were city people, and they knew also to keep themselves safe. So it was a very interesting sort of watch the exchange of politeness and anger that comes from that. This is the free trade zone. This is Chittagong. Chittagong is the free trade zone area where a lot of exports go also to the US, and the big ships that are out there waiting for them. This is jute. Jute is a big industry in Bangladesh, and so it is milled. It is how would you say that? It is all the particles are taken out, and it's then woven into sacks that you might recognize other places. This is a finer textile. This is cotton, most likely. And this is I think this is actually the factory of my host father. He has a textile factory. So I notice, and this is what you want to be very worried about, there are limb centers in Bangladesh because the people are wearing a lot of heavy garments when they work. And this can sometimes get caught up in the machines, and you probably all know the consequences of getting caught in a machine for others. This is then the sales of cloth and saris and silvar kamises, which are the wide pants and the tunic that the women wear in their daily lives. And mostly you see men selling. This is a tailor. Also, you'll see a man sewing. This is most of a man's business outside of the home. This is some mountain people that we encountered. So you have very many different faces of Bangladesh. The mountain region, these are very traditional people coming into the village to shop and then going back to their respective areas. He's wearing a lungi. That's the tube that the men wear. Again, very modest people in Bangladesh, and always concerned about covering. Not as many women all cover their heads. You may notice that, especially not in the home when a woman is present. If it's a man coming in, a Quran teacher, the women all cover their heads. But inside the home, that does not have to be. Here is preparation of food, oftentimes on the floor, as you can see, and this is the little girl from the servants of our host family. This is the daughter, and she learned a little bit of English. In the morning she would say good morning, and I would say please some hot dud, which dud is hot milk, or milk. And this was a windfall. The family was brought all these fish, and she was having to deal with what to do with them. There are refrigerators, but the refrigerators in the homes are in the dining room, which means they were added later. In the kitchen, there's mostly things going on a small sideboard. Even the cooking is sort of on camping stoves, so it's not really a set-up kitchen. As there are also not a lot of supermarkets. There are supermarkets, but that is mostly people buy fresh, and they buy in outdoor markets. I went to buy a sari, and here's the lady who helped me pick one out. I pulled the turquoise one right away. I bought it for the wedding, and they gave me 100 other choices, and I stayed with choice number one, because not a whole lot of things look good on very white people like me. They're all other colors, but I like turquoise. So there you are. This is a Seidensticker company. This is they sew very fine men's shirts. I don't know, Andy, if anybody or others of you wear Seidensticker shirts, but it's a very well-known European company. And this factory is so, or manufacturer is so well run. It was run by one of the Rotarians that was a host father to one of my team members. And these women have to come in after lunch, and they have to show their hands, because the Bangladeshis eat with their right hand. And so they have to show completely clean hands. They also had in this company a creche, which is children's, they could leave their children there for the day. And they don't like to do that. Only if it's really necessary do they leave their children in the care of anybody else than their family. And at the end of the day, the men were at the gates picking up their working wives. And I asked about that, and they told me that, see how important our women are. Their husbands are there to pick them up. So that was very interesting. This is another worker in a factory. And this is the factories we were not shown. These are the sweatshops that are in the big cities, and we had no insights to how the working conditions were in them. I can tell you, however, that the construction is volatile, that there is every building that you see has metal sticking up. And I was told that the permit is for a 10-story building, and the family or whoever owns the buildings builds one story after another at the time when they have enough money to do so. So this idea of all these metal rods sticking up is that of the future of each building, and sometimes they are not safely built. And there was a 7-story building that did collapse, and it would have looked somewhat like this. The idea of lots and lots of people working in these buildings, and also the possibility of them also easily destroyed sometimes through non-structural safety can happen.
Suzanne, I think that was, I showed that to one of my classes. I think it's a few hundred women died in that collapse. It was awful. They had the videos on it, and a lot of them, they were dug out. A few women, days after, they lost a lot of limbs, and it was so devastating because those women, if and when they got well, they wanted to go back to work, but some of them only had one arm, and they were sewers and they couldn't work. They had no insurance. It was just incredibly devastating. What they're left with afterwards, they can't do anything. They have no protection, no insurance. There's a lot of greed with these companies, and they're made for a lot of American companies that took no responsibility either. It was just incredible.
Well, I think things are changing a little bit after Mohammed Yunus came in, and people are able to, women are able to work with women, and they had the small business loans. You probably heard all about that. That was in about the same time that we were there. We were there in 2006. So in the 2000s, all of these ideas came up to protect workers a little bit more. Rotarians are helping with the limb centers, etc. So the limb centers, not only do these things happen when buildings collapse, but also with unsafe work protection situations. The factories, the jute factory that we saw was incredibly loud. People were losing their hearing for sure. There was no protection for them. And so, yes, the individual worker is not in a safe place. That all depends. Remember how many people there are that work, how many people have to make sure that they put food on the table. So a lot of these things are certainly not ideal. What I saw in terms of what Rotary projects there was a cancer center that we visited. We saw one of my girls wanted to visit the Acid Survivors Foundation and did. This is a whole different other story. If a woman denies a groom his right to marry her, she oftentimes has to accept retaliation, and the retaliation sometimes comes in form of sulfuric acid thrown at the face of this person. And so if she does survive this, and the children sometimes in the same room who get some of it by accident, because this happens at a time when she's not paying attention, they are taken care of by this Acid Survivors Foundation. And that is also one of the tragedies of different cultures. Nobody wants this to happen, but women are still promised in marriage, and to go back on that is very, very tricky. So this was a shop where the women were selling saris and solar camises And this was a fashion show. It's a very famous fashion designer. I'm sorry, I don't know the name, but this was at the Rotary conference, and this fashion designer takes the folklore feeling of the country and puts it in new kinds of garments. So this might be interesting to Andy as well, because as I said, this is a very different way of dealing with the fun or the traditional garments of the country. This was a very wonderful wedding that I went to. And at this wedding, remember, I like turquoise. I noticed these three ladies wearing these hand-printed saris, and they were wearing a typically Bangladeshi sari. The sari that I was wearing in the one picture is a silk sari that comes from India. The silk that is densely woven is coming from India mostly, and is sold in Bangladesh. But the typical Bangladeshi sari is it's a 6-foot piece of cloth. In case you don't know how to how it actually comes before it's put into this beautiful form that I now know how to do, thankfully, and do every year with our youth exchange students. But the saris these ladies are wearing are kind of like sheer curtains. They're a lot more see-through, and they're called half silk. And this half silk is a very open mesh fabric and is gorgeous. And I was very, very lucky because my host family, after such a long time, 2006 till last year, 2019, actually found a sari for me that was half silk and turquoise, and they went all the way to Canada to the International Rotary Conference and tried to meet up with somebody from our district, and that didn't work out. And finally, I got a little package in the mail, and it was a sari, a half silk sari that I had so wanted in 2006, and they were so kind to send me that. So I was very, very lucky and very happy to receive this lovely, lovely gift. So this is the same kind of fabric. This is the half silk, and this is a black and white one in honor of Ikushi. Ikushi is that International Mother Language Day that is so celebrated in Bangladesh, and everything there is done in black and white and red. So this symbolizes, I guess, that particular day, and is one of the ladies in the fashion show wore it. So I understood its significance later on when we celebrated Ikushi. Now look at this. What is this? This is a tent, a temporary tent, or gate, actually, it's a gate. And these are set up for weddings. So this is the entrance to the wedding, and it is a temporary structure, as is the tent on the left side, where the up to 1,500 of your closest friends and family come to one of the 4 parties for the bride. You can imagine my host family had 5 daughters, that this is a very expensive undertaking for a dad to marry off his 5 daughters in a row, first the oldest and then come the others. So I think all of them but one are at this point married. This is a little girl who is a bride, and of course not yet, but she is dressed up as one, so she's already very proud to do so. I have to, 1 second, I have to turn on a light because it's getting dark.
All right, Suzanne, a few more minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that too. Okay, here is a village bride. Here is a Rotary bride, a little more wealthy. She's wearing her dowry around her neck. That goes into the bank safe and is her money when she's done. This is my host family's daughter, and when she was a bride. And this was the wedding that I went to. Everybody congratulates groom and bride. They sit in this tent inside the building. And this was a very, very big honor that the bride got up for me, because usually for 4 hours she has to sit there. So she's not allowed to get up. I was the only person that was a Western person there. Here are some villages. And very, very happy. Bangladeshi people are supposed to be some of the happiest people in the world. And this is a school. This is Rotary gives the school books, and you can see that the children are very, very happy to do their work on the floor and are very, very welcoming to us. More kids, projects that we did while we were there. This is the Peace Corps worker that we got our instruction from before we went, with a bunch of the teachers that she helped to teach English. These are the kids in an orphanage that we went to. This is a sewing center where they're trained to become to be able to sew, and they get a sewing certificate. This is Mohammed Yunus, who started the Bangladeshi system of small business loans, especially to women, without collateral. And so these are the things that were done also by the Rotarians. And here are 3 girls that have just completed. And this is a Rotary Women's Club that is standing there in support of these young girls. We gave a lot of money to, not a lot of money, we gave money to this orphanage. We did a loan of $30,000 from our district. My club was very kind to help me facilitate that. And this is, the boys are usually not all orphans. They are oftentimes turned away from the household because they are the son of the first marriage. And when they are in the way of the lineage of the family with the second host, with the second father, they are turned away into an orphanage, and the father then fathers his own son. So, this was a picnic we were invited to, and I got to hold a goat. And this is almost the end of our presentation, and I wanted you to know that there were some very interesting propositions that we got, like, would you like to have dessert, or would you like to go downstairs and watch a live birth? That is not an offer that you get in Rotary every day, and I decided for the dessert, and my girls went downstairs to see a live birth. Bangladesh is a country that needs many different things, and the poem that Mother Teresa has written, and I'm trying to think if we changed it, and I think this is Mother Teresa's poem. So it's a very, very nice poem at the end of all of this. Life is an opportunity, benefit from it. Life is beauty, admire it. Life is bliss, taste it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a challenge, meet it. Life is a duty, complete it. Life is a game, play it. Life is a promise, fulfill it. Life is sorrow, overcome it. Life is a song, sing it. Life is a struggle, accept it. Life is a tragedy, confront it. Life is an adventure, dare it. Life is luck, make it. Life is too precious, do not destroy it. Life is life, fight for it. And this was written by Mother Teresa and used by the Rotary Masajida Center for helping kids get jobs, etc. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Wow, well done. That was exciting, and I'm really glad that we had you do that and take us through a tour. And there's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize that I learned about. I was really fascinated that the Rotary clubs basically are women or co-ed, not men or co-ed.
Well, no, I mean, no. There are men, there are a lot of male clubs, but my point was that the women are, they're equal members and have been for quite a while. In Germany, that's not the case. That took quite a while longer, interestingly enough. So in 2006, there were already a lot of mixed clubs, but there are also still women clubs, and they're not Rotarians. They're actual Rotarians. So, and they're doctors, and there are a lot of women in all professions. So,
great.
If there are any questions, I think we take one or two.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're running on a little bit limited time, and if you do have a question, make sure you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Can I ask a question, Bill Wagner?
Go ahead.
I was there 47 years ago, I think. And at that time, what you saw was a very, very poor country. Many slums, many people in bad shape. The pictures you've shown us indicate to me that has dramatically improved over the years. Is that your evaluation? Or do you think you maybe were taken to show pictures that didn't show the bad parts of the country?
We saw enough poverty for what you say to still be true. But we were also very privileged in the way that we visited this country. And yes, we were shown a filtered view of the country for sure. So I'm, you know, I looked enough behind the scenes to see that, you know, the women working, the men picking them up at the gate, meant they were taking their money as well, and nobody said it that way. So you understand that the question of freedom and of ability to better oneself can be one-sided. But there are, I mean, Rotary has done enormous work in the country, as have other, you know, the people that are privileged. They give the children that beg, we were begged at constantly every time in the car. There is a lot of, you know, there is a lot of corruption. There are a lot of things that one could also talk about. You know, there were certain things that I avoided because I knew better and because I'm a much differently organized. They expected me to be sort of a soft, sweet American, and they got this, you know, German immigrant who is a lot more driven to do certain things a different way. They would say to us, "See you around the bar, kids," and they think of us as Baywatch babes and MTV. And I said to my girls, "You will not drink any alcohol while you're in the country," because we had read in old reports that, you know, there could be problems, and so we didn't do the things that we could have to get in trouble either. So we had a very good trip because we were well prepared, and we saw the things we saw, and we did not see everything, and we did not make that an issue.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Suzanne. That was wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you
Excellent
for giving me
program.
so much time. I know it's you know, it's long, but
No, that was great. That was great.
How can we all give an applause? How can we all give an applause?
well, you can.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah, I know. You said in 2006 you wanted to hear all about it.
That's it.
All right. We're going to go ahead and conclude the meeting. It was great seeing everybody, all these wonderful new faces that we have on this evening. You are more than welcome to join our meetings. If you ever want to join us with during another monthly meeting, just get in touch with Suzanne, and I can pass information along.
And you can also ask me questions by email. You all have my email that I sent out, so you're very welcome. If you had any extra questions, be happy to answer them. Don't have my own Zoom channel, but I do have WhatsApp.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you very
Everybody
much,
have-
Alicia, for taking on all these guests, and that's you know,
Yep.
very kind. Thank
It
you.
was great. Thank you. And everybody have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you.
Night.
Night. Bye-bye now.
Hey, Brad, good to see you.
Nope. I can't, for some reason, I can't unmute him.
Maybe he's got to unmute himself in addition to you. I don't know.
Yeah, Brad, can you unmute? Try to unmute yourself. There you go.
Is it
Yeah.
still
Great.
Yeah, that's good.
working okay now?
Yeah,
Yep.
fine.
Okay, good. This is my wife, Cheryl.
Hey,
Hey,
Hi.
Cheryl was also a Rotarian for many years.
very good.
Good.
I enjoyed the chance to to get and see that presentation tonight, and look forward to future ones also.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Next month isn't going to be as exciting. It's going to be the installation of new members like you, and the induction of the officers. So it'll be important that you're there.
Okay.
I will, as usual. I usually let everybody know. I'm the Zoom meeting host, grand marshal, whatever you want to call me. The great
Okay.
but I try to let people know after the second Thursday. Usually the second Thursday we have board meetings, and so not to confuse our board members, I will let the general members know about the upcoming meetings, like the weekend after our board meeting. It's also, I also put it on the DAC-DB, the district calendar.
Okay.
So when you get onto that, you can see. So how is the weather up in Ohio?
It's been a bit cooler and rainier than normal for this time of the year.
Lots of rain.
Yeah, not as much as last year, I don't think, though.
No, more.
It's
Really?
well,
More
We've
for
had
you?
like 5 inches since Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I remember my family lives up in Bowling Green. So they're, Northwest, and they got so much rain this time last year that they could not plant, they could not stick 70 to 75% of their crops. So at least they got their seeds in this time around.
yeah, around here, some of the farmers are complaining that they haven't yet.
They haven't even started.
They haven't got planted yet. So
Yeah.
so you're in the Tampa area.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I've tried an interactive Zoom meeting. I've been just an observer and some through business. So
It's pretty
I'm still
cool.
learning. I'm still learning the ropes here.
I've had friends on Facebook compare it to what do I want to say, the Brady Bunch. You see everybody.
Yeah, that's it. That's good.
What can I say? I've tried to get, well, Will's got 2 younger brothers, and they'll do Zoom. I've got 2 sons that live up in Bowling Green, and I'm trying to do that with them. But so you can do it with family. If you get a Zoom account, you've got 45, it's a free account, and you got 45 minutes a meeting that you can talk to whoever you want to.
Yeah, my 2 brothers and I just had a Zoom teleconference about a piece of land that we're trying to sell in